Good day, my name is George and I welcome you to training session 5. Let us take a serious look at the financial verification constructs. You will notice that there are 8 candidates listed above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and lastly 8. Now, let us start back at candidate 1. We notice that financial planning and financial control are both in harmony with each other. We further notice that financial discipline is in harmony with both financial planning and financial control, which means that they are all consistent with each other. We further notice that the candidate finds both financial guarantee, financial compensation and status in harmony with each other. That all seems to look great at first glance. Now looking back at self-discipline, we notice this construct is underactivated. We now need to look at the candidate's personal standards and character qualities, and we find that they are in harmony with each other as well. We notice that the candidate's risk is at the same score as his or her personal standards and character qualities, which would make the candidate to be classified as high risk. Due to the risk level being the same as personal standards and character qualities, we can verify that the candidate has a lack of self-discipline. This is clearly confirmed by the candidate's own admission. We find the inconsistency between responsibility and reliability, which is the result of not being self-disciplined. Summarizing candidate's high risk and taking into account the candidate's lack of self-discipline, we therefore can confirm that due to the inconsistency between responsibility and reliability is a direct result of having a high risk value and a lack in self-discipline. We would have to watch this candidate carefully when analyzing this candidate holistically. We now will take a look at candidate 2, and then deal with each candidate separately, before we look at the candidates as a group. We notice that the candidate's financial planning and financial control are in harmony with each other, although they are slightly underactivated, meaning that he does not plan and control his finances optimally. We further notice that his self and financial discipline are in harmony with each other. Looking at the fact that his financial guarantee is not important to him. Financial compensation is part of his hierarchy of preferences, meaning he places a lot of emphasis on financial compensation. It is little unusual that status is not that important when financial guarantee is. Moving on to the candidate's personal standards and character qualities, we also find them to be in harmony with each other. We find that the candidate is risk adverse. Ending off with candidate 2, we find that his responsibility is totally unrealistic, therefore we should keep a lookout for manipulation while browsing his other constructs. Now let us take a look at candidate 3. We find that candidate seldom does any financial planning, and the same goes for financial control. Due to the candidate's lack of planning, it is unlikely that he is self-disciplined at a score of 83. Neither would he have much financial discipline. The candidate has little interest in financial guarantee, which is totally out of sync with his low risk value. Due to the candidate's low risk value, it is unlikely that he would be motivated by financial compensation instead of financial guarantee. Although the candidate's personal standards and character qualities are in harmony with each other, and at the same time has a low risk value, one must take note that this candidate has an inconsistency between his responsibility and reliability. Due to candidate 3's different inconsistencies, this candidate should be carefully examined holistically, as he certainly has a number of pressing questions behind his answers. Moving on to candidate 4, we find the following. Candidates' financial planning and financial control are underactivated. It is interesting to note that the candidate claims a very high sense of self-discipline. On the other hand, the candidate financial discipline is inconsistent with self-discipline. It is interesting to note that the candidate's financial guarantee is in harmony with his very low-risk adversity. It is easy to notice that the candidate is not motivated by money, and that is the reason for his low interest in financial planning or control. It is most interesting to notice the candidate has 99% in personal standards, which in reality is unlikely, and also inconsistent with his character quality score. With a very low risk score and very high personal standards, this candidate would have very high stress IIS, and would battle to cope with life holistically. Adding to the problem, the candidate has an inconsistency between the responsibility and reliability scores. By reviewing candidate 4's profile, we find that the very high scores are unrealistic, and due to numerous inconsistencies. We can only conclude that he has used impression management and therefore should be given a red card for being dishonest. Let us check this out in the next training session. Let us now take a look at candidate 5. The candidate's financial planning and financial control are optimal. And his financial discipline is slightly overstated, which we will not worry about at this stage, as his self-discipline remains consistent. Financial guarantee is extremely important to the candidate, meaning that money is most important to him, as can be confirmed through financial compensation. It is a little unlikely that because both financial guarantee and financial compensation are scoring high, his status should not be slightly underactivated. We further find that the candidate's personal standards are inconsistent with character qualities, and adding to the problem, the fact that his risk values are higher than the candidate's personal standards, resulting in him being classified as a high-risk candidate. Due to his risk value being higher than his personal standards, the likelihood of him being responsible and reliable are very unlikely. Overviewing candidate 5, and due to his high risk value, we need to monitor him throughout the whole audit, as this is a good reason to keep monitoring him carefully. Looking now at candidate 6, we find the financial planning is almost in harmony with financial control. We find further that his self-discipline is also in harmony with his financial discipline, and that he prefers financial guarantee over financial compensation. Although his financial compensation is in harmony with his status value, we find it unusual that the candidate has a high risk, which is usually associated with financial compensation, and not financial guarantee. The candidate's personal standards and character qualities are in concert with each other. But unfortunately, having the high risk value makes this a high risk candidate, more so being because of his lower score on financial compensation. And on top of all that, the candidate's responsibility score is out of touch with reality. Although his reliability score is in harmony with responsibility, this candidate has become a suspect of using impression management. Now let us take a look at the second last candidate, namely, candidate 7. Immediately, we looked at this candidate. We found that his risk values were very much higher than his personal standards and character qualities. With this in mind, this candidate becomes a fraud suspect, simply because of his high risk and low interest in money, as indicated. The reason we are saying this is due to research we have noticed. People who say they manage their finances responsibly and then claim that money values, which are highly underactivated, meaning that they are not important to them, are being intentionally dishonest, and therefore should not be employed at all, and if already employed, should be very strictly managed. Lastly, let us move on to candidate 8. We notice that the candidate does not do much financial planning, neither does he control his finances very well, which is consistent with his financial discipline. The candidate enjoys to know that he is guaranteed a fixed monthly income. However, we notice that the candidate is not motivated by money, as can be seen through his financial compensation score. And at the same time, is verified by his status score, which happens to be in harmony with financial compensation. The candidate's personal standards are optimal and in harmony with the candidate's character qualities, which are both optimal. The candidate is not completely risk-adverse, but one can assume that he is reasonably honest. Bearing in mind that his self-discipline is inconsistent with financial discipline, and due to a couple of inconsistencies as just mentioned, we also find that the candidate has inconsistencies between responsibility and reliability, as indicated. Completing candidate 8, we find that he is reasonably honest, and as we proceed into the next session, check him out before making any decisions. Bye for now.